Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are finally covering the eastern half of Winter Storm Orlena, which is a Midwest snowstorm that will turn into a potentially blockbuster nor'easter. Now, if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. Now let's get right on into it. I am on the Weather Channel page, and we have a article here as always. This one is titled Winter Storm Orlena to hammer Midwest, including Chicago, this weekend, then become a nor'easter early next week. And at a glance, we have the latest, and a parade of storms will take shape over the Midwest this weekend. This storm will eventually become a northeast snowstorm beginning Sunday, and strong winds and coastal flooding are also possible in the northeast. Now, I love this graphic. This shows the path as well as snow totals. Now, this doesn't show the two possible tracks this storm could take. Now, the Midwest track is pretty much set in stone. This is going to bring major snow totals to parts of the Ohio River Valley and the Great Lakes regions, with some minor snowfall totals in areas of the Northern Plains, as well as parts of the Tennessee River Valley. But when we get to the Northeast, there's two distinct tracks that make a huge difference in terms of snow totals, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. Now, we're going to skip over winter weather alerts and go here. This is the Weather Channel's forecast. You can see a leading edge of snowfall, but mostly a rain event here. Then you move into Sunday. This is now primarily a snow event. We now have snow stretching from Minnesota to New Jersey, and heavy snow from Indiana to New Jersey as well. So, during the day Sunday, we're going to see this storm shift from a primarily Midwest storm to the Northeast. Our focus is going to shift on Sunday. Then Monday is the big day. This is when Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and Boston all get involved into the storm. Now, regarding New York and Boston, there's some areas within this corridor that could see a boom or bust snowstorm. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. On Tuesday, this storm kind of pivots and turns toward the north. Now, Boston, the northern parts of New England, such as New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, now get involved into the storm, as well as the Maritimes of Canada. While there are still some lighter snow showers and maybe a few snow squalls, but generally just light snow in New York and Philadelphia. DC and Baltimore is pretty much done at that point. Now, the Weather Channel is taking one of these routes, one of the two potential routes, and using that as their forecast. So here's the Midwest. This is basically set in stone at this point. This event is going to start throughout the day on Saturday. This is about what's going to happen. Now, in the Northeast, you notice a pretty considerable gap between areas of Pennsylvania and Boston, right in here. This includes parts of western Massachusetts, Connecticut, parts of southern New York, parts of northwest New Jersey, northeast Pennsylvania, that are outside of that 6-inch range. But there's another track that this storm could take where all of those areas get involved while keeping this heavy snowfall from Virginia up into Maine. So we'll take a look at that in a little bit. But another thing that is always an impact with nor'easters is wind. And this will lead to some coastal flooding, tree damage, power outages. So that's pretty general nor'easter stuff. But let's move on here to the National Weather Service. So we have winter weather advisories from North Dakota to Michigan, winter storm warnings from Iowa to Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. Now we have some winter storm watches in Indiana, Ohio, as well as parts of the Mid-Atlantic. I strongly believe that those will be winter storm warnings here very soon, as well as winter storm warnings will be named in most of the Northeast throughout the day Saturday, as we are getting prepared for this storm. Now let's move on here to the NAM. Here is track number 1. This is the major snowfall from Philly to Boston. So, let's go through this step by step. So, we start here in the Midwest, mostly a rain event. Then this storm collides with that cold air. You have the leading edge, mostly snow. The area right around the low pressure, mostly rain. Now this quickly transitions to a more snow event while this low pressure is weakening. And that's where most of the Midwest gets their snow. But this weakening low sets up the next stage of this storm. While this snowstorm is pushing into parts of the Mid-Atlantic with some heavy freezing rain, there's also some freezing rain in Iowa to start, but now we're kind of heading into the eastern part of the system, the coastline. This dying low sets up a new low pressure to form off the coast of North Carolina and Virginia, and that moves pretty close to the coast. Now that's what sets up this very heavy snow from Philly to Boston. And that stays around for a few hours, and that's where you'll get most of the snowfall if you live in southern New England, areas of the New York Metro, and areas of Boston and Philly metros. Now the NAM model has not completely loaded in this storm, so we will have to calculate some of this back end into the snow totals, which will lead us to over a foot of snow from Philadelphia to Boston. And actually, if we go to the latest model run, we can see that, boom. This also has some heavier snowfall in Pennsylvania. I think that this might be a little bit overplayed. There is a possibility that, bands set up, but there's also a much more predictable region that will get heavier snowfall from Philly to Boston. So, European model, we're going to be shifting over there. This is the other track. This is the out to sea track. So, it's not completely out to sea, but just enough to make major impacts. So, same start to the storm, dying low. Okay, so, low moves off the coast. Now, this low pressure is much further off the coast than the NAM shows. So, that heavy snow is now from parts of southeast Jersey through eastern Long Island into Cape Cod and Boston. So, areas of southern New England, Connecticut, western Massachusetts, southern upstate New York, northwest New Jersey, Pennsylvania, kind of left out of the equation here. So, that will affect the snow totals, leading to kind of a backwards L shape for the snow totals, this 6 to 12 inch region, with your 12 plus areas being in eastern Jersey, eastern Long Island, and parts of eastern New England. So those are the major differences. Now let's go over to my predictions and see what I think about this storm. So here are my predictions for this storm. Let's go through this line by line and kind of decipher what I've done here. But first, this is subject to change. If models shift, if the storm doesn't perform like it's supposed to, this of course can change. There can also be some differences, some locally higher or lower amounts based on banding, based on dry air problems, based on moisture, if there's an abundance of moisture in one spot, just, average stuff that happens in our atmosphere that could change these numbers a little bit. So, let's start off with snow. I have this light blue area. This is less than 3 inches. These are areas that are outside of the main event. Either you're starting as rain, switching over to snow, starting as snow, switching over to rain, or you're just in light snow for the entirety of the event where you are. Next is this medium blue. This is 3 to 6 inches. This is where you're going to see light to moderate snow. You're not going to see much heavy snow. You're really not in the heart of the storm, but you'll still see a decent amount. Now you have 6 to 12 inches. This is that dark blue color. That is where you have your heart of the storm. This is heavy snow. You're pretty much all snow for the event. You rarely have maybe a switch over to freezing rain, but you are going to be seeing some of the heaviest impacts of the storm. Now, finally, I have this purple region, which is 12 to 24 inches. I have a few of these areas. This is just where you're going to see some heavier snow, inch-an-hour rates possible. And I have the Philly to Boston heavy snow corridor. That's the NAM. So, if the NAM shifts, this part will shift as well. This could easily become that backwards L shape that the European had if the model shifts a little bit. But the NAM has been a little bit more accurate over the past few storms, so I went with that here. Now I have these red outlines. Those are areas with the highest probability of seeing the freezing rain. Now that doesn't mean they're going to see any freezing rain, they just have the highest probability of seeing freezing rain. Now I have rain. I have this light green, this lime color. That's a half an inch or less. That means, maybe a few showers, some light rain. Overall, not something that's going to be super impactful, just, a decent rainfall. Then you have this dark green, that's a half an inch to 1 inch. So, that's where you're going to be seeing, maybe some decent light thunderstorms, maybe, just some general moderate to heavy rainfall at times, but of course you're not in the heaviest rainfall. 1 to 2 inches, this is the yellow color. This is where you're going to be seeing the heaviest rainfall, maybe a few areas of thunderstorms, but generally these areas will just be seeing consistent heavy rain. And then in North Carolina here, this is where you're going to be seeing 2+ inches. This is where you have the combination of heavy rain throughout most of the event, plus lines of thunderstorms, and you're pretty close to the actual line of thunderstorms that usually comes with a strengthening nor'easter, that kind of 9 shape that usually happens, that comma head 9 shape type of storm. You will be seeing the thunderstorms that kind of line up with that. But do you agree with my map here? Do you think that some areas will see more, some areas will see less? Comment in the comment section down below. But that's all I have for this storm. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.